Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to The Voice of the Times. It's Wednesday, December 30, 2020. For today's editorial, Philippines should temper expectations for a recovery of remittances. Remittances from Filipinos working abroad to their families back home constitute a considerable part of the Philippine economy, as everyone undoubtedly knows. According to data compiled in a report earlier this month by the ASEAN Plus 3 Macroeconomic Research Office, or AMRO, migrant workers account for a bit more than 5% of the total population and contributed a bit less than 10% of the Philippines' gross domestic product, or GDP, in 2019. Since 2015, remittances have exceeded foreign direct investment, or FDI, in terms of their contribution to the country's economy. It should come as no surprise to anyone at this point to learn that the remittances have been severely impacted by the coronavirus pandemic, as it has been responsible for a near collapse of the entire global economy. Data from our own government indicates that more than 200,000 overseas Filipino workers, or OFWs, have returned home since the beginning of the year due to job losses elsewhere. Many others have seen their earnings drop as governments restricted economic activity to try to control the pandemic. This, of course, has led to a significant downturn in remittances, which in turn has contributed to the year-long recession in the Philippines. Based on data from the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, or BSP, remittances contracted sharply in March, April, and May by 4%, 16.2%, and 19.3% year-on-year respectively, and again in August by 4.1%. However, growth in remittances in other months has seemingly prevented the doomsday scenario that some feared. As of October, the most recent month for which the BSP has complete data, year-to-date remittances totaled $27.346 billion, only about 1% the year-to-date total at the same time last year. This apparent resilience, government officials have actually used the word, of remittances has led most to assume that they will return to their former level of significance once the pandemic is over, or at least reduced in risk due to the widespread vaccinations that are already beginning in most of the destination countries for a majority of OFWs. There are strong indications that this may not necessarily be the case, however, and that the government should be conservative in its expectations for remittances in the coming year and possibly beyond. Some of the reasons for this are laid out in the recent AMRO analysis of remittances in the ASEAN 3 region, which includes the 10 ASEAN members plus China, South Korea, and Japan. For one thing, there is a great deal of uncertainty whether or not the apparent recent rebound of remittances is genuine. AMRO points out that due to lockdowns, border closures, and other restrictions, many overseas workers who were still able to send remittances to their home countries were cut off from informal remittance channels, thus sending more money through digital and formal banking channels that are monitored by monetary authorities, making it appear as though remittances had increased when, in fact, they may not have actually done so. In addition, restrictions on the movement and activities of foreign workers in their host economies correlate with an uptick in personal savings rates, and very likely contributed to more money being sent home than would be under normal circumstances. Another issue that has not yet been considered by policymakers is the handicap the government's lack of initiative in securing vaccine supplies may have caused the country. As more countries carry out vaccinations of their own populations, it is almost a certainty that they will impose strong restrictions or outright bans on arrivals of people who have not yet been vaccinated. OFWs may very well find themselves unwelcome, even in countries where they were previously deployed, and by the time they have caught up to being vaccinated, they may find themselves having been replaced by foreign workers from other countries whose governments have been more on the ball, so to speak. All things considered, the signs are clearly not pointing in the direction of a resumption of business as usual in terms of remittance inflows for the foreseeable future. This is something that the government will have to account for carefully, not only for the impact on the overall economy, but more importantly, on the welfare of those families directly affected. And that's the editorial for Wednesday, December 30, 2020. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to The Voice of the Times.